Before we get into this video, I want to talk about something that is, for most people, probably the kind of boring part of YouTube stuff, which is metrics and analytics. So everybody who watches YouTube hears YouTubers say, remember to like and subscribe. Some folks even try to encourage their audiences to comment on videos as well. But something that isn't really talked about quite as much is things such as viewer retention and watch time. However, those metrics are also both incredibly important for the success of videos in terms of like the algorithm on YouTube. And the reason that I bring this up is because these videos, the Frieren videos specifically, so far on this channel, have been doing pretty well in my opinion, especially in terms of these metrics of viewer retention and watch time. They've also been getting not just more comments than other videos. I think that so far on this channel, they're the only videos getting comments. And as you all have likely noticed, I like seeing these comments and I often like responding to these comments in the videos. So the only thing that I think I would like to see more of, other than just, everything getting better, more views translating to more of all of these other things, I would like to see some more likes on these videos. So this is just a real quick reminder slash request slash shout out, whatever you want to consider it. Shilling for my self promotion at the beginning of the video. Just remember to like videos, remember to comment on videos. If you can, try to watch videos for as long as it holds your interest. Watching videos for 80, 90, even 100% of the video instead of just, the first couple of minutes really does mean a lot to the metrics and analytics of the video, and that helps the overall success of the channel. If you want, I also talk a little bit about these kinds of things in terms of what it has meant for the first couple of series that I've tried reacting to on the channel in a recent community post on my channel page. So you can check that out if that's something you're interested in, if you want to, see more about how I'm looking at things, how I'm thinking about things, et cetera, et cetera. But if none of that interests you and you're like, stop yapping, get into the freaking episode, that's what I'm here to see you do, is react to the anime, then let's go ahead and do that. Starting episode 4 of Frieren, Beyond Journey's End, in 3, 2, 1, go. My fingers got a little messed up there in the countdown, but I was not going to redo that whole little spiel for the intro. I hate recording intros. I hate recording outros. They are my least favorite part of doing reaction videos and basically any kind of recorded content. So I wasn't about to re-record that whole thing that I lucked into doing well enough in the first attempt, just for the sake of having my fingers look a little better during the countdown. Anyways, we are in the OP now. Is there anything I want to... Oh, you know what? Here we go. Let's talk about this as we are making our way through the OP. So we haven't seen this... We still haven't met this red-haired character yet, who seemingly, from what we're seeing in the OP, is likely going to be like a new party member for Frieren's new party, now that now that her old party members are gone. Although I don't think the dwarf is gone yet, but you know what I mean. And I am really interested in seeing more long-term party members, because while I've obviously commented multiple times so far on the fact that this seems to be a slow series. Like that's no secret, I think, for anybody who's watched the first few episodes, that it's seemingly going to be a slow series. And I've commented on that. 28 years after the death of Himmel Hero. Okay, so we have advanced a year. We're at 27 years after the death. But I feel like thus far, there have been some things about the fact that it's slow, specifically with regards to character interactions and character development. There have been some things that I feel like I've really liked, and there have been some things that I'm currently a little unsure of. There's currently some things that I'm a little on the fence about with regards to how they're handling the sort of slow build up. But again, we're still very early into this series, so like I'm not like, oh, they messed this up. I'm not saying that these things are necessarily bad as of yet. But there are some things that I'm interested to see how they handle more once we get some more, specifically, again, what I'm talking about now is specifically once we get some more long-term characters in the mix for more extended character interactions. Because first couple episodes we saw Frieren with her adventuring party over the course of several decades, and then they died. They're gone. We don't have to see these interactions anymore. Now in the last episode, in episodes 2 and 3, we were seeing her with Fern, and Fern maturing and becoming an actual person, because when Freeman first met Fern, she was a child. um, and we haven't gotten to see too much yet, and just there's some ways that the characters communicate, and I want to see how that communication continues to develop, and I want to see how it's affected by other parties. Because there have been some things, especially looking back at when I'm rewatching the first couple of episodes, there have been some things where I'm like, I don't know if this is handled well. I don't know if this is handled poorly. I don't know if the way I'm reading this interaction is actually how it was meant to be interpreted, or if maybe I'm reading it this way because they aren't providing enough information to the viewer, and so my brain is having to kind of like fill in the blanks, so to speak, which is something that human brains often do in situations where we aren't given as much information or data as we feel like we need to be receiving. I don't feel like I've missed too much by going on this little monologue here at the beginning of the episode. I feel like things, again, in keeping with the slow, the the nature of the show currently being understood as being a slow show. I feel like not too awful much has been happening, just a lot of little stuff. Yeah. And some of the things that have been happening in these first few minutes here, we are actually getting a little bit more. Oh no. What was the one instance? Clicked his tongue. I feel like we are getting what I was going to say is I feel like we are currently getting a little bit of sort of the sort of stuff that I was talking about, which is just more pieces of character development and more interactions between them. Also, I want to see a couple more shots of them standing close together, but I want to say that it seems like, and maybe this is just, animation difference from one episode to the next. Maybe this is just my eyes telling me something that's not true. But I feel like Fern is slightly bigger in this episode than last episode, which would be just a nice little touch considering that, again, another year has passed. Yeah, I think she has gotten bigger. I don't know. Maybe the last episode they just didn't. No, I think she's definitely bigger. Maybe last episode just didn't have as many shots of them standing next to each other, but I this feels somewhat intentional to me. Like last episode, they even called out like you're finally taller than me, and now I feel like it's like very noticeable and not just like a little bit. Why is she? That's impossible for you. What what a challenge and tribulation we're facing in this episode. I'm not interested. That's why I want. Hmm. That makes more sense. Hmm. I thought it was gonna be something about. Thought it was gonna be something more about how the experience is less about the sunrise itself and more about enjoying it with the company that you keep. But maybe it's just about enjoying new experiences in general and learning to wonder and awe at the beauty of nature and such. Oh, this is a beautiful shot. They gave some extra reflections to her. That's because you're smiling. Okay, so little column A, little column B. Yep. I've been able to see this sunrise if I'd been on my own. Yep, yep, yep. Okay, so yeah, little column A, little column B. She did like the sunrise, but she felt like it wasn't worth getting up early for. But like I was saying, it wasn't about the sunrise. It was about enjoying the sunrise with other people. Okay. Wow. We went from enjoying the sunrise to everything returns to dust. Whiplash. Getting awful existential on me here, show. I care. Even if it doesn't exist, I believe it should. I feel like that sums up what a lot of people feel about religion that they're not willing to say out loud. uh, I like his attitude. Yeah, that's a nice way of thinking of things. And I would say a very honest way of looking at things. Oh, jeez. Okay, we're still 28 years later, and we are visiting the dwarf. I'm here to hang out. You act like it hasn't been 30 years. What's a mere 30? Uh, interesting. What's a mere 30 years? I believe in the last episode, when the demon Qual was unsealed, and he was told that he'd been sealed for 80 years, he was like, a mere 80 years. And Frieren said something like, to us. Interesting. I just find that similarity of expression of saying, a mere 30 years, a mere 80 years. I just find that interesting. A long time. Yeah, how long must that be? If she called it a long time. You're scouring a forest for notes? Huh? Oh. That didn't seem like much of a lead. Like, okay, we have reason to believe that these particular notes might not be fake. And what about finding them? What about actually finding them? What is Fern doing in the background? It's more than that. But he basically played along, though. He basically played. Oh my word. Old man strength. This is the guy who said, like, what, 20, 30 years ago that he's too weak to wield an axe anymore. we're still doing we're still doing a lot of like montages. Like the show is still very slow in its pace, but it manages to maintain a slow pace while also condensing a lot of time into short periods with like a lot of montages and stuff. Huh? What's he saying here? This is gonna be fake too. Ain't no way. I don't want to see him now. It's a nice sentiment, but then how are you going to feel when this turns out to be a wild goose chase? Like oh, what's that about? You can't just say that. Oh, okay. And now we're getting flashbacks of an entirely different variety. Wow. Read her like a book even 1,000 years ago. Everyone pats her head. I feel like there is a lot happening in what was just in like the dialogue and flashback that's been conveyed in the past few minutes. I feel like there's a lot to be read into. Unlikely. Oh, I was wrong. Based on the flashback we just saw, I'd say so. Oh, okay. What happened to no proof of... Interesting. I... Hmm. Having a lot of mixed thoughts on this, on the way this is playing out. And the sort of contrasts of narrative that are taking place. We did see how much she doesn't care for the cold in the first half of the episode. I wonder how... I wonder how her age affects how weary and tired she is. Because, like, when you're talking about normal lifespans, like normal human lifespans, like, when people get older, they get tired, right? And, like, I don't know how old she's supposed to be able to get to before she's considered old. But, like, we know that she has lived for hundreds and hundreds of years. I believe that flashback was to 1,000 years ago, or at least it was implied that it was roughly 1,000 years ago. So, like, she's old. Even if she's not old relative to how old she is going to eventually live to. Like, I feel like just objectively speaking, she's old. Hmm. Wow. Wasn't even a one. Yeah, that tracks. I remember how much longer this dude has. Did I say remember? I wonder how much longer this dude has. Because, like, he considered himself too old for any kind of traveling or adventuring decades ago, but we saw him lifting that massive boulder like it was nothing, so. Well, a mere 10-year adventure. That's how we're going to end this episode off. Okay. It'd be a mere 10-year adventure. Hmm. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about that episode. I'm not sure how I feel about that episode overall. I feel like hmm. Yeah, I don't know. This is I think this is maybe the episode that I most feel like I need to rewatch to try to understand what people were saying and why they were saying it. Because I feel like there were, in this episode, I feel like there were kind of a lot of instances of people, both of people expressing themselves, but also just of people saying things that could be read into to interpret how they're thinking and feeling about things. I don't know. And I feel like there were a lot of, not only a lot of ideas, like personal beliefs about things being stated, but also because we had like, because we had some flashbacks to Frieren traveling with her original adventuring party, because we had the one flashback of her to her master making a comment about Frieren as a person, and then of course the present. And I feel like we did, with all the back and forth that was happening, I feel like we also saw changing of ideas and just yeah, I feel like in a number of ways there's just a lot of potentially different ways to look at certain things, and sort of to the point of what I was talking about at the beginning of the episode, what like one of the things that I am primarily focused on seeing at the moment in this series is how we continue to develop characters and how these characters end up interacting with each other. And if I feel like those interactions and the way those interactions occur are being done well, and and basically showcasing like meaningful interaction, meaningful connections, or if they're just kind of like, or if they're sort of like half baked or just sort of like clumsily done, or like just not really meeting the bar of like fulfillment that I'm looking for. And if like, and if you're being required to read into things that maybe are not necessarily there. Again, because of a couple of factors, because of things like the fact that this show is very intentionally and deliberately going slow and taking its time with a bunch of things, because it's being handled by Studio Madhouse, who has a lot of experience and a strong track record with a variety of different shows, because this show, while granted, I don't always have a high opinion of what the general anime viewing populace thinks about series, um, because this show has such a massively positive reception. Like, again, you look at like my anime list and it's the highest rated show, even managing to beat out Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, which is wild. Like, because of a bunch of things, because of a bunch of like outside factors, I guess you could call them, I want to say I basically I want to give the show the benefit of the doubt and say that these things that I am currently unsure about are going to are going to be found to be satisfactory later. I want to say that like once things have had time and I continue to watch the show, I want to say that the more time I give it, the more satisfied I am probably going to end up being with how they handle these various things that I've been talking about for a lot of this episode in this video. So yeah, that's kind of that's kind of where I'm at with this episode. But again, as I've noted, I've mentioned this a couple times, like in the comments on videos that I've gotten so far, and I think I mentioned it also at the beginning to an extent of this video. But I'll just to make it very clear, like after I react to episodes of shows, I do not always, but almost always rewatch episodes later before I move on. Sometimes I'll watch 2 or 3 episodes back to back before I rewatch things. And then sometimes with shows where I feel like when I've been watching the My Hero Academia episodes, like those are things where I feel like I'm processing everything that's happening and not really missing anything of significance. So I don't rewatch those, but like all the Dungeon Meshi videos, all the Frieren videos to this point, I have rewatched those after I've recorded the reactions to them, just to make sure that I'm not missing anything super important. And I have picked up on some things in Frieren and a number of things in Dungeon Meshi actually. So like, just to make it clear, I do rewatch the episodes. So if you feel like, oh, I can't believe you missed this, or oh, I can't believe you didn't understand, like, you know, that this was what this person was trying to say, like, there's a decent chance that either I've considered what you're saying already and I still feel a different way about it, or that if I did kind of miss something the way that you are seeing it, there's a decent chance that on rewatch I will see it. So you don't have to worry about me like going into future episodes like completely missing something. I don't like missing again, like the fact that I am watching a show like this and largely enjoying it to this point, I hope speaks to the fact that like I care about details and nuance and like complexity in storytelling. I care about those things, so I don't want to, just for the sake of being able to run my mouth more during these videos, I don't want to like basically intentionally miss things and then not care about it before moving on. Like I do want to fully understand the story that's being presented to me. I do want to understand like all of the I do want to understand the like the various points and facets of what the show is trying to tell me before I proceed, and like before I proceed and it tries to build on things that I may not be aware of. Like I don't want to be missing building blocks of like future things that it's going to be building on, right? Does that make sense? But with all that being said, at this particular point in time, I don't feel like I really have too many things more that I want to say about specific things that happened in this episode. Maybe as we get into next episode, which I am going to rewatch this episode for sure before I move on to the next episode. Maybe once I watch next episode, I will take that sort of either intro before I start the episode and or the OP before we get into the like actual events of next episode. Maybe I will take that time to tread back on some of the things that happen in this episode that upon rewatch, maybe I will have a better kind of handle on how I feel about them. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Until I see you in the next one, take care. Bye-bye.